So this was supposed to be my dream wall, but as you can see, didn't quite turn out as planned. So today, I'm taking you along as I try out 2 DIY paint techniques, pick a winner, and transform this wall into the feature of my dreams, including a DIY slat feature and new nightstands. It's the kind of transformation that packs big impact, but doesn't require a full room reno. Let's go. So ever since Cody and I went on this beautiful tropical vacation, I have been dreaming about incorporating some organic design vibes into this room, just like that resort had. Think texture and warmth and all the organic materials. So I thought Limewash would be the perfect look for this wall, but the technique I used just did not turn out how I wanted it to. So we're gonna try a DIY Limewash and a DIY Roman clay and see which one fits the vibe I'm looking for. Then we'll work on that slat wall feature, add in our nightstands. I'm thinking some hanging pendants over the nightstands. It's gonna be good. Let's get to it.
Every project starts with a supply run, and here I am with my family at Home Depot and Sherwin-Williams, picking up 1x2s and a paint sample for this project, and we're having a lot of fun while we're at it. Do you need help?
Okay, so after some YouTube research on DIY Limewash and DIY Faux Roman clay, I have picked up some drywall compound, some different paint, and I have had Cody help me grab some scrap pieces of wood. We're gonna test the DIY Limewash on one, which is a new technique from the one that I used and it failed, and then the DIY Faux Roman clay on another. The original vibe I wanted was kind of like a concrete look. I think from the YouTube videos that I watched that I'm probably gonna like the Faux Roman clay better. So the first thing it says is to divide your paint tray into 2. There we go. 1 paint tray turned into 2. So we're gonna put 1 color in here and 1 color in here. Now I'm using leftover, which is like quite old leftover from our living room. And we painted almost as soon as we moved in. So it's like, no, it's over 10 years old.
This leftover paint here from Benjamin Moore is a Thunder in a pearl finish. And then the Sherwin-Williams color is Gauntlet Gray in a matte finish. And I can link those in the description below.
So you can see we got dark color here, lighter color here. Now we're going to take our staining brush. This is what all the tutorials recommend. We're gonna dip it right over the divider like this. I'm just gonna help it separate using my hands. So we're gonna dip it in here. Oh, my middle divider's a little high. And we're gonna get lighter shade on half, darker shade on half. Then all the techniques say to make like X patterns. Making X patterns kind of all the way around, blending it in. Okay. We got 1 trial test done. Now I like the color that they turned into when they mixed. We'll see how that one dries. Let's move on to the Roman clay. So I have another paint tray, drywall compound, paint, and a putty knife. Now, typically you would use tiling trowel, but just for the purposes of this board being so small, I'm going to use this.
Here I am mixing the drywall compound. The tutorial I watched suggested 2 parts drywall compound to 1 part paint. I will link that tutorial below in case you want to give it a try.
Now I'm gonna add in the paint. I think I'll start with 1 and then I can add 2. I feel like that is actually pretty good. I don't think I need to add any more paint. So it said like C motions. Let's just get creative, shall we? That one's too small. I know even some tutorials that I watch sanded after. I don't want to sand after. Okay. I'm gonna color at that. Here they both are right after I completed the test trial. We have the Limewash on the left and faux Roman clay on the right. When we look at this, we can see some white streaks underneath, which is what you can see currently on the wall. So let's do a second coat. Okay, second coat's done. I don't see any white marks, so we'll let that dry. What I decided on for the slat wall was 1x2 clear pine. Now my dreams were 1x2 walnut, but that does not fit the budget. I am going to stain it in like a walnut color to give it that walnut look, but let's be honest, it is pine and you can't really make one species of wood look like another species of wood. It's very, very budget friendly. Like I wanna say $1,000 cheaper. I'd have to go back on my numbers for sure, but I think the 21 1x2s were roughly $200, and when I priced out the walnut, it was over $1,200. All right, I just wrapped up sanding those boards. I'm going to clean up my sawhorses outside, and that is probably a wrap on, day one. So let's clean up these sawhorses and get everything put away. My plan is to test the stain, choose a stain, get that first coat of stain on so that it has time to dry throughout the day. Then we'll look at the faux Roman clay and the faux Limewash samples, choose one, and I'm hoping that I can get that on the wall today as well. Okay, I have the stain. Stopped to get a coffee because, you know, made the trip to town. It's an ambitious day, so we better hit the road home and get started. Okay, we are back. So I'm gonna mix some custom stains. Special walnut mixed with Jacobean. 2 parts special walnut, 1 part Jacobean. The second one will be 2 parts English chestnut, 1 part Jacobean. I'm trying to get that walnut look on pine. So around here, we don't buy rags. We use worn out clothing as rags. That's how my dad and my grandpa always did her on the farm growing up. Monkey see, monkey do. To mix up these custom blends, I sniped a tablespoon from my kitchen and I'm using that to measure 2 parts to 1 part, making sure that I stir the stain really well because the color does tend to settle at the bottom of that can, and also labeling the paint trays so that I know which one is which. That'll help me when I go to apply the stain on our test piece of wood. And here's what we're looking at side by side. In the red container is special walnut with Jacobean, and this is English chestnut with Jacobean. Just looking at them, I'm liking the English chestnut, but let's get a board and do some staining. When I'm testing stain, I always use a scrap piece of wood, making sure to use the same species of wood. Ooh, that's dark now. Okay, they both are quite dark. I'm leaning more towards the English chestnut. That's my English accent. Here is the piece of walnut I have. So that is definitely darker, I would say. This one leans like a little bit more in the same tone-ish. Let's go inside. Let's take this inside to buy the dressers, which are not solid walnut. They're like a laminated walnut, and let's kind of see how this looks against that. This is a nightstand, and these are the samples. So I think I'm gonna go with the English chestnut mixed with the Jacobean for the slats, which is this one here in the center and that one there. I don't know what to do. We have our 2 paint techniques that we tried yesterday. Now on the right we have the faux Roman clay, and on the left we have the second attempt with a different technique at the faux Limewash. I will say, I know that I like the warmth of the faux Roman clay versus the coolness of the faux Limewash. However, I see in this one more kind of color dimension. I don't know if I'm communicating that right. And in here, I just see a lot of physical texture and not a bunch of kind of color dimension. I don't love all of that texture, and I know it'll be different because it'll be on a bigger surface. I'll be using a larger straight edge to apply. I also am like, well, I could try the Limewash, and then if I don't like it, then I can go to the Roman clay. But to do it the other way is a lot of work, because if I did the Roman clay, got it up there and was like, nope, don't like it, then I have to sand the entire wall. I don't know, might phone a friend. Stain a 1x2 slat, phone a friend, make a decision, live with the decision. That is my process. And I phoned a friend. She did say the one on the left is the one that she thought looked like cement. So that's the Faux Limewash attempt number 2. I did put the 2 paint technique samples on my headboard. Let me show you. There it is. Faux Limewash attempt number 2 is what we're going with. I have just eaten my words. I'm probably gonna like the Faux Roman clay better, but I like that one.
Now that I've made some decisions on the paint technique as well as the stain color, we're gonna mix up all our stain and start staining these 1x2s so we can continue with the project.
Okay, so when you're prepping for paint, please, please, please don't be the person that paints around these. Remove the outlet covers.
Now that we are prepped for paint, we're going to start our faux lime wash technique using one dark color and one light color, making a X pattern and blending it out as we go.
Okay, this is where we're at right after I finished it. I like the outside, just something's up in the middle, so I might have to do some more in the middle tomorrow, but we're gonna see how it all dries and then we'll go from there. That looks terrible right now on camera. It looks like Mickey Mouse. Definitely get rid of Mickey Mouse. Here we are this morning. First thing I'm gonna do is get a coat of poly on the wood slats. Okay, before we get to work, we're gonna repack the hockey gear. This right here is proof that you can build amazing things in a garage that multi-functions as equipment, air drying space, car space, storage, and a wood shop. I mean, a wood shop would be really nice, but don't let that stop you. Just get things done with what you have. Once again, I'm using water-based polyacrylic in clear satin.
This is my go-to poly. I use it on almost all projects that require a top coat. So here I am applying it with a brush. I'm putting it on the faces of the boards as well as the sides and being very mindful of any drips. You can always sand the drips off, but it is easier just to brush them off. I'm hoping that the poly really brings out those warm tones in the slats. And now that we have it all done, let's go check on the wall.
Okay, so here's what the wall looks like after one coat. And I will be honest, I like it a lot more than what the first lime wash fail turned out to be. It's giving more like concrete cement vibes. However, right here we have what appears to be Mickey Mouse. And Mickey Mouse needs to go. This is not a collaboration with Faux Lime Wash and Disney. So I'm going to do a second coat on kind of this like middle section here and kind of end up with like what we have going on each side. I think right here what happened was I mixed up my brush. I didn't label which side was the darker paint, and like in my crosses and blending, I must have went and dipped it back in and kind of mixed it up. So I have our paint mixed up, the darker color, the lighter color. This is something I'm doing this time is I had labeled which is the darker side. So that way when I re-dip after I've blended, I won't mix them up.
Love you, Mickey. Just don't love you on my walls. So once we're done blending out this middle section, we'll go check back in on our slats.
Okay, it has been about 2.5 hours since I put the top coat on. Usually just by feeling it, I can tell, yeah, it's ready. It's not tacky or anything, so we are going to use 220 grit, knock off that top coat, and then apply a second top coat. Hello, hello, welcome back to, what is this? Day 4 of our feature wall makeover. We've gotten rid of Mickey Mouse, as you can see. So I'm really happy with it. I think it's given concrete cement vibes, and that's what we were going for. Next up is we are going to start on the slat feature, which will go on this third of the wall. I have all the slats ready to go. Just got to give them a light sand. I did not get to that last night when I got home from the hockey rink. So light sand, and then we're gonna start installing, and I think this color turned out really nice. Okay, so I have 21 1 by 2s, which 21 times 1.5. 76 1/4, I said. Better double check that. No, 152. 76.25, which I don't think I want to go that far. What's 1/3 of the wall? 1.5 feet. 25.5. Right? Is that what 1/3 was? So if the slat wall ends here, pendant goes here. Let's do this on paper. Sometimes that's easier. Okay, so this was my original plan. It looks like I have way more material than I need. Okay, so I'm gonna start with trimming out the outlet covers. I got that math figured out. We'll work on the slat math from there. Okay, my math didn't math, because see what happens if I keep cutting? I'm gonna be left with like this sliver down the middle. So back to the drawing board on the math. Okay, so here's the idea. That'll go around the outlet box and then this will sit over top. Ideally, I like a smaller overhang. 5, so if I put a slat right in the middle. Well, mistake number 2. So I like that amount of overhang, but the outlet box is not gonna fit inside there. That's way too small. But this time at least I figured out what I did wrong in the math department. Oy, 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 oy. I added only to one side. I forgot to take into account that when I want overhang the long way, I have to add double. And crossway, I also have to have double. So, still a little bit more overhang than I like, but I don't want to use a whole entire slat to keep going.
Now let me save you all that trial and error and give you the exact measurements. So I ripped the 1x2 down to 1 inch, and the outer measurements were 4 inches by 5 3/4 inches, giving approximately a 5/8 reveal. Hello, hello.
I had a hard day yesterday. I was tired and math was not mathing, so I failed twice before I actually got it right. We're gonna get those slats installed today. There's a couple things I want to show you first. So trimming out the outlets is one way to make a slat wall look well finished. Another thing is how you finish it along the baseboard. And you can see that I did not trim out the outlet. It honestly just looks so much more finished and cleaner when you do trim it out. As you do things, your skills build, right? And you learn more skills, which means you're able to do things differently. So that's where we're at. I beveled them back here so that they don't stick out right where the baseboard is. And I think that also gives it a much cleaner look. You see how the 1x2 is thicker than our baseboard. This is not a really nice look. We're gonna start by getting our trim on around the outlet covers, and we need to turn off the breaker so that we can pull our boxes out and then put the trim on. And then we're gonna start loading this wall up with slats. 1 master bedroom, so we're gonna flick that to off.
Now that we've turned the power off to these plugs, we can unscrew them and pull them out. I'm going to use my laser level and construction adhesive to secure the trim around the outlet. Now, because that trim bumps it out, you're going to need a longer screw to secure that plug in. As I am tweaking this to make sure that they are perfectly level and straight before we start cutting and measuring and installing those vertical slats.
Okay, I marked out some measurements here. So this is with 1.5 spacing for the slats and 3/4 inch in between. That worked out to be 1, 2, 15, 19, 20, 21, which I don't have. I only have 20 because I broke down 1 to do this trim. So I can widen my spaces in between, or I can just do 1 short.
Decisions. Let's get to the install. So I'm using construction adhesive and brad nails to install these slats. And for that first slat, I'm using my laser level to make sure that I get it perfectly plumb. And then from there on out, I'm using a scrap piece of wood as a spacer. Now the scrap piece is cut to the exact width of the spacing, and it helps so you can just keep the exact spacing the whole way through.
Okay, so welcome back to day 6, I think we're at, of this wall makeover. We are almost done. I got all of the slats up last night except for one, which I need to scribe to this wall. So I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. And then we're gonna fill the nail holes and that'll be a wrap on the wall. You'll have to wait to see on the hanging lights that I decide until the very final reveal of the full primary bedroom reno. So here it is. You can see it's not quite a full slat. I'm gonna grab my tape measure and I'm just gonna measure down here how much we have as well as up there. I'm gonna rip it on the table saw and I'm actually gonna bevel it so that when it butts up against this wall, there's less surface area to butt up. So it'll just be the front part here, which makes it easier to get it nice and tight.
So first we're going to cut that raw end off the wood and then we're going to cut this slat to length. Once it's cut to length, we are going to bevel that bottom end that's going to meet up with the baseboard. Now I have a scrap piece of wood and you can see that I am testing the angle and my settings on the table saw for this side that's going to meet up against the wall. So I have my piece cut. I'm going to put this in here, but I'm going to put it right up against this slat. Because when we took our measurements before, we took into account how much distance here. So I found a piece of wood that allows me to put it like right up against the wall and this. And I know that it's perfect because right here, it matches up. I'm gonna draw a line all the way from here, all the way up. And as I go, I'm gonna move this board up with me. So I put this in, make sure my gap is nice and tight, and then I'm gonna slowly move this up. Okay, so as you can see, oops, from that pencil line there, that is my scribe line. You can see I really don't have to take anything off this end until about here. And then it comes down to quite a bit here. Okay, I must be very confident in my scribing skills because I didn't test the fit before I went ahead and put construction adhesive on, so let's hope it fits. I got the nails ready to rock. Come on. Oh, not bad. The top didn't work out very good. Looks good down low. And then we get up top and it's a little off. And that is because I should not have used this long of scribe piece. I should have cut this down to like 1 inch or less so that it could move with the wall. And there will be drapes right here, so you won't really ever see. Now that our slats are all installed, it's time to fill those nail holes. I'm using Wood Pro by DAP in the color Walnut. I'm just pushing it in with my fingers and wiping it off with a damp microfiber cloth. As a reminder, here's where we started. And are you ready for it? Here's where we finished. Wow. This feature wall might just be one of my favorite parts of the bedroom. From the paint technique, to the slats, to the walnut nightstands, it completely changed the vibe of this space. Now, it didn't come without its challenges, as you saw, math, and as you noticed, there is no hanging pendant above me. So the ones that I had chosen in my initial design are looking a little too busy, so stay tuned for something that I'm gonna DIY to fit this whole vibe we got going on. Next up, in our From Mattress to Makeover series, we're gonna head over to the other side of the bedroom where we're gonna create a DIY vanity with smart storage and a functional setup that looks just as good as it works. We're also gonna add in some shoe storage. So be sure you're subscribed and let me know below, would you do Limewash or Roman clay in your own bedroom? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.